You're listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. I'll be your host this week, Ali. You can follow me on Twitter at FFDynastyGrill. With me as always, the amazing trio are here. So bring on my co-host, Matt. You can follow on Twitter at MattFFDynasty. How are you doing this evening, Matt?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad, thanks, Ali. Been a little bit under the weather the last few days, so hopefully the coughs at ease a little bit tonight. I don't want to be coughing in everybody's ear while we're speaking, so I'm going to do my best to keep that under lock. So I'll mute myself a little bit, but yeah. Apart from that, obviously, I had to be here for today's show. We've got a great show coming up. Chatting to you two boys, it's always a pleasure. So yeah, I had to be here for this one because it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think to be honest, we're all suffering with a bit of a cold, but this show tonight could be a little bit hot and spicy, so it could warm up with what we've got on offer. And with that, we'll bring on our sexy co-host, Kev. You can follow on Twitter at Dynasty_Go. Kev, how are you doing this evening?
I mean, you're definitely under the weather with that comment. I think, yeah, we did have to reschedule from Sunday to tonight, which is Tuesday. And on Sunday, I was absolutely buzzing, but tonight I'm feeling not just 100%. Maybe it's because of what we've got looming on today's show about getting aggressive and being nasty to each other. But yeah, really looking forward to tonight's show. I actually think Matt rearranged it from Sunday night because I thought he'd shaved his head, changed his accent to Southern accent, changed his name to George, and gone on Love Island. If you get a chance to have a quick Google of that, please do. It's just, that's Matt for you.
It's absolutely spot on, Matt. You got to check it out.
I can't even defend myself because I don't even know what it looks like. So must be a good-looking boy there from.
Oh, exactly. We've got some exciting news to share. We've got plenty of giveaways from our charity streamathon. So, without further ado, Kev, do you want to talk us through the amazing prizes that are on offer if people donate in the month of June?
Yeah, so we dropped some mega news on Sunday about the charity streamathon giveaway, where lots of brands in the community have been really kind to give away some free prizes for anybody that's donated to our charity streamathon, but also that donates up until the end of June. So I'm going to go through the prizes alphabetically so that we're not showing any bias and putting anyone first. We're just going to go alphabetically. So I'll reel them off. These are the prizes you can win if you've donated to the charity streamathon this year. So 5-yard rush, they're giving away a fantasy football challenge cup spot, and you also get the bonus of drafting with any friend or analyst of your choice. You've got a DLF annual premium membership subscription, Dynasty Island bundle, so that's his rookie guide, survival kit, and a roster review for one of your Dynasty teams. We've got Dynasty Rewind roster review, Dynasty Theory 1-year Discord access, we've got Dynasty Trading 5 roster review, Dynasty Warzone roster review, JWB Dynasty roster review. We've also got a draft guide from JJ Zacharyson at Late Round Podcast. NFL T-Strack, Tom Strachan, he's going to do 3 best ball reviews of your teams this summer. We've got the Player Profiler All-In package, which is Dynasty Deluxe, DFS Dominator, the world famous draft kit, data analysis, and player rankings. We're also delighted to be giving away a Scott Fishbowl 13 entry, which will be announced a little bit earlier in the process to get all the teams in there before early July. Got Tale of Two Rivals Dynasty roster review, and also the Devi Royale Patreon subscription for 3 months, plus a Dynasty roster review. So please keep on donating. Thank you to the brands that have been really kind to share these free prizes with us as part of the charity streamathon giveaway. Yeah, we'll draw most from early July, but that Scott Fish will be coming a little bit soon. So keep your eyes peeled, keep donating, and best of luck.
Yeah, well said, Kev. Really some exciting prizes there. I certainly wouldn't mind a couple of them myself, but yeah, keep donating. We've hit a nice milestone, but we'd like to push on and raise as much money for Mind Charity as we can. So yeah, keep donating up until the end of June. So with that, we'll move on to today's show. Today's topic, we're going to be debating our individual dynasty rankings, and we're going to be calling each other out and on players that we find that they're either too high or too low on. And certainly there are some egregious ones. Starting with this one. No, not really. But Matt, over to you for your quarterback that you're a bit too low on compared to me and Kev.
Yeah, this feels like a little bit of a soft start to proceedings, I feel like. Because I feel like you're not going to get too aggressive with me, but we're going to start with Jared Goff. The reason why I've got him ranked as my QB 24, whereas Kev's got him at 20, Alan's got it at 19. So I'm a little bit below you guys, but like I said, I feel like this is a soft start because I'd probably imagine we've probably got this guy in a similar tier anyway. We've got quite a few QBs around that range, obviously getting towards that back end QB2 area in obviously your startups and in your rankings. So I feel like this is not going to be too much of a heated debate, but a good one to start. And the reason why maybe I'm a little bit lower on Jared Goff than what you two are is my reasons for the concerns with Jared Goff is obviously he's coming off his best season in a couple of years now. But the last couple of years, he has kind of been that low-end QB2. I think he finished around the QB20, QB22 over the last 2 years before the season just gone. So that kind of felt like his range, but then obviously had the improved year this year, but still only finishes the QB17, I believe, in fantasy points per game. So it's not like he's taken a massive step forward. And I just feel like that range of, like I mentioned, being a low-end QB2, I just can't move him any higher because I feel like the difference between last year and this year is obviously last year, the Detroit Lions, the expectations for that team was basically nothing, wasn't it? Let's be honest. Nobody expected the Lions to do anything last year. The defense was terrible. So Jared Goff kind of had that freedom of not really having too much to worry about. It was kind of, he was trying to keep the team in contention. So he was obviously throwing the ball plenty, had plenty of opportunities to throw the ball, little pressure because nobody expected so much from the Detroit Lions. And I just worry now coming into this year that's completely flipped. This year it feels like everybody's talking about the Detroit Lions being the sneaky bet of somebody making the playoffs. And everyone's really getting behind this Detroit Lions offense. And I just worry that now the pressure's really on Jared Goff. Obviously, we know that the Lions have got an option of getting out of his contract at any time. So if they wanted, if this year he doesn't succeed, there's every chance that Jared Goff isn't the starter moving on after this year. And I just feel like that change in mentality could be a little bit more dicey. We obviously saw it when he was with the LA Rams towards the back end of that after they got to the Super Bowl. Kind of dropped off a little bit because the expectation becomes so much more on Jared Goff. So I just worry that if he doesn't hit the ground running like he did last year, and with that expectation being more of he now has to perform, there's no freedom because they're improving the defense. He has going to have to be a game managing quarterback now. And I just worry that with that added pressure and the pressure, obviously, the contract situation, they've obviously brought in a quarterback as well in the NFL draft. I don't know why I forgot his name.
Hooker.
Yeah, Hendon Hooker. I don't know why I forgot his name, but they obviously brought in a quarterback as well. And while I know he was a round 3 pick, so it's not like there's a great deal of investment in there, it's still just a little something else. So I just think with everything added up, the uncertainty beyond this year, maybe that's why I'm a little bit low. But as I say, this is not a planting my flag on that I'm out on Jared Goff situation. This is just a case of him being at the bottom of my tier, where he's maybe a little bit higher in your tier.
So funny you mentioned planting a flag. I guess the reason I'm keeping up is he was my flag plant last year for last season. So we're like twins. Like mine's just worked crazy. Then cheers for the segue. But yeah, I love his O-line. I love the weapons. There's been an improvement. A tight end Laporta's better than James Mitchell or block right. You've got GIBBS, who I think is on par with Swift, at least minimum. Jameis Williams, when he comes back from whatever he's been doing. Marvin Jones as well, decent. So I actually think he's going to keep his job long term because I see the Detroit Lions actually taking that step and contending. I think if it was a situation where Detroit are near the top of the draft again this year, that's going to pose some questions. But I like Detroit to do well, and I think that will ultimately lead him to being a longer term QB. Yeah,
much the same, really. I mean, I can't believe I've even got him higher than you, Kev. Perhaps he's going to be my flag plant this year. But yeah, I see this very loosely, a bit like Jalen Hurts' situation with the Eagles last year, and that there was expectations coming into the season, and he needed to deliver. He did deliver, secured that contract, and I think that Jared Goff is going to be the guy that's going to lead Detroit Lions to the division win. I think they're going to at least make the playoffs, and I think Jared Goff's going to earn that contract. I think I saw a Madden run through of the season, and they had the Lions coming in the NFC Championship. I think they lost in the NFC Championship. Perhaps not going to make that, but I do see Jared Goff being the quarterback there. I think he commands that room. I think the Lions love Jared Goff. He's there this week with pictures of him in absolute blingage. I like Jared Goff going forward. He's a likable guy. Played really well last year behind that awesome O-line. GIBBS, all their weapons as well. Jameson Williams at the end of the season coming back. Yeah, I think I'm quite bullish on Jared Goff, but I mean we're 5 places apart, so they're in the same tier. But yeah, I can certainly see why you'd have him a little bit lower than me and Kev. And with that, we'll move on to the other end of the spectrum where Kev is too high on a quarterback, or too high, perhaps higher than me and Matt. So, Kev, who's the quarterback?
I mean, it's Justin Fields, but it seems like I'll be taking on both you boys and taking on all of the public. So it's going to be like a scene from Braveheart or something where I'm just absolutely taking on everyone. But yeah, Justin Fields, I've got him QB5. You boys have got him 8. You're probably above consensus. I'm quite a bit above consensus. The reason is, I think last season, top 5 QB fantasy points per game with absolutely nothing in terms of weapons. They traded for DJ Moore. They traded out of the number 1 pick. I think that is a big sign that there's belief in Chicago that he is the QB. Bearing in mind, three of the first 4 picks in this year's draft were all QBs. So they had the pick of any of those guys that could have moved down a little bit and taken one of them. So glowing endorsement for Fields. DJ Moore, easily the best wide receiver he's ever had. So I really like that. I think as well, I get a little bit frustrated, a little bit wound up with sort of people ranking Trevor Lawrence above him, which I know you boys have got him 1 spot ahead and all the public's got him 1 spot ahead. But let me just tell you this. Justin Fields gets hammered for not being a great passer in the NFL. Bearing in mind, it was a slow-paced offense and he had terrible weapons. If you look back to college, then compare him to Trevor Lawrence, he actually put up better passing numbers, better QB rating, touchdown ratio, etc. So he was a better passer than Trev in college. Yes, it was in the Big 12 or whatever division it was, but Trev was in the AAC or ACC, whatever it's called. So it's hard to say that Trev is much better passer than Fields, because based on college, he wasn't. Plus, you've got Fields who's got that. You mentioned Madden. I'll say Konami for Fields. The fact that he doesn't need to be an amazing passer. I'm really excited for him. I think people need to treat this a little bit like the Matrix. So, you know, the blue pill, the red pill thing. Everyone's taking the blue pill at the moment, living in that nice, ordinary life, want to think whatever they want. All I'm going to say is go back, take the red pill, and you'll have a life-changing truth.
Perhaps we'll get there one day. But, I mean, quarterback 8, we're going to be in the same tier. It's just I prefer to have, at the minute, Justin Fields has had an incredible one year. I want to see him take that next step before I rank him accordingly higher. I still want to have Justin Herbert ahead of him, who's had a quarterback 2 finish. Trevor Lawrence, just a more stable quarterback. Got Lamar Jackson as well. But I mean, Justin Fields absolutely feels like where Jalen Hurts was this time last year, can take that step into the next tier. But yeah, I just prefer to have a more stable quarterback. Perhaps at this stage, I mean, I'm not a massive believer in the Chicago Bears franchise. They do some odd things, but yeah, that mean all signs point to them believing in Justin Fields, him taking a step forward this year, finishing at least where he did last year for fantasy. It all aligns really well for Fields. So I mean, it's hard to not keep putting him ahead. He's probably going to outscore Trevor Lawrence this year. Yeah, he could outscore Lamar Jackson. There's certainly questions about him. So yeah, I mean, I like the ranking, Kev. It's pretty spicy having him ahead of Justin Herbert, presumably. But I get it. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I'll start by saying that I do get it. Obviously, we know the rushing ceiling is what we all crave in fantasy. And it's funny that you mentioned about Jalen Hurts, Ali, because I keep doing like a running thread, I guess, on Twitter where I mentioned the comparables between him and Hurts when we're talking about Jalen Hurts and playing with next to no weapons, needing to take a step forward as a passer. But then obviously that huge rushing ceiling. And then we know what Jalen Hurts went and did this past year. So I can see why. And obviously they've added DJ Moore as well, similar to how Hurts got AJ Brown, maybe not to the same level in terms of talent, but it's still an upgrade for the wide receiver one. So I do find it funny that we're on that parable. And I do think that Justin Fields has it in him to take that step forward as well. But I'm just maybe that little bit more cautious and thinking, while I know it can happen, that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. And if Justin Fields doesn't take that step forward next year, like we mentioned, with the team not being that great as well, I feel like they could be in that position, like you mentioned earlier, Jared Goff, not being in that range of getting an early quarterback. I feel like the Bears could maybe be in a situation where they are in an area where they can make a jump for one of these top quarterbacks next year. So that's just why I'm a little bit cautious, but I do get the ceiling is there. And if all hits well, he could be ranked in that tier with Jalen Hurts if things do go right. So I do get it, but just for now, I'm being a little bit more cautious than maybe aggressive like Kev.
Love it. We better move on to my egregious ranking. And yeah, I'm going to go for the back-to-back MVP from a couple of seasons ago in the guy that moved to the New York Jets in Aaron Rodgers. And it's probably surprising because I've not felt great about him all off season, but where I have to rank him, I really struggle to have any of the guys below him ranked above him. So I've got him ranked above Jordan Love. We've just not seen much of him. I read this week that he could be a sell where he is. I think the market's overreacted to Jordan Love. I think he's almost priced at his ceiling. Trey Lance, I mean, is he the backup in San Francisco? Is he going to get traded away? Who knows? Russell Wilson looked absolutely washed last year. And then Derek Carr, steady quarterback, Kenny Pickett. Those are the guys going in that range. So I'll just go for a guy in Rodgers that we know is a serial top 10 quarterback or top 5 quarterback when he's in his prime. He's moving to a team in the New York Jets that's littered with weapons, got good O-line or the improved O-line, great weapons. The run game should be there. Awesome defense. So similarly to Tom Brady coming across to the Buccaneers, not quite got the weapons that perhaps Brady had, but I think he's in for a renaissance. I think he's got a point to prove to Green Bay, and I think when Rodgers is playing with a chip on his shoulder, he's at least going to give you, I think he's going to be there for 2 years, and if he's going to give you 2 years of top 10 production, I think ranking him any lower than a quarterback 2, I just think you're missing the point slightly. So I'll take Rodgers in a 2-year window. I think obviously Garrett Wilson's been ranked as high as wide receiver 3, 4, 5. I'm obviously expecting that link up with Rodgers to be really productive. Yeah, and I think it's going to be there. I think it's going to be a great season for Rodgers this year. And then again, I think he's going to re-sign because I think the Jets are going to be good this year. And then he's going to play for a couple of years. So I think for that 2-year window, I'm happy to have Rodgers as a mid quarterback too.
Yeah, again, this is a little bit like Jared Goff, I guess. He's in that kind of range where I think we've all got quite a few quarterbacks in this big tier down here. So I'm not going to go too hard on you, Alex. I don't think it's that egregious to have him as QB 20. My only arguments will be, obviously, we know he's getting up there in age. And last year, it was a huge fall off from what we've seen from years before from Aaron Rodgers. Usually, you can guarantee that he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in fantasy, whereas last year, he finished quarterback 21 in fantasy points per game. So that's a huge drop off. And obviously, there's been changes with the Packers and the whole situation there with the Packers. But I just worry that with his age and him getting up there, is it just now a regression of his career, I guess? Is it coming to the end of the career? Is that regression more down to his actual ability rather than the situation he was in? So I just feel like at this time, I feel like it's kind of just, it just feels a little bit risky to me that it could be the end of Aaron Rodgers rather than the situation. And I just think at that range, I'd rather have him ranked a little bit lower than taking my chance and having to grab him a little bit earlier in my rookie draft, where I think I can get quite a few quarterbacks around that range that have maybe got a little bit more security in terms of the longevity.
Yeah, I think for me, I see him as a year-to-year guy. The fact that I'm not, despite the contract, I'm not confident he sticks around long. He's played in Green Bay, where the media loves, obviously, on Rodgers. It's a tight-knit community. He's going to New York, where he'll love the limelight, of course he will, because he's a diva, but I can see it working the other way as well, where he can't handle it. Obviously, that's tough to say for a guy that's been MVP twice, but it's a completely different market he's working in. He's not going to be the powerhouse in his division like he has been for Green Bay in the North for the last 15, 20 years. I can't see the Jets overhauling the Bills, Dolphins, and Bill Belichick consistently. So, yeah, I think I've got him a little bit low for that respect. I think he's on a year-to-year deal.
Yeah, pretty good arguments there. And we'll move on to the running back position. And back to you, Matt. So you are lower on this guy than me and Kev.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I could get some backlash on this one because I know I got some when I brought out my rankings and where I had this guy ranked. It's Josh Jacobs, and I've currently got him ranked as my RB14, whereas you guys, Kev, RB8, Ali, RB7. So you're probably around the consensus where I know for a fact I'm lower than consensus. As I say, I took a lot of stick for this on Twitter, but my reasons are just looking back to Jacobs when he came into NFL, finished RB15, RB12, then RB13 in fantasy points per game before taking that big step forward last year, finishing as the RB3 in fantasy points per game. That was despite the fact he didn't see an increase in his targets. He actually saw pretty much the same amount as what he saw the year before with 64. The big difference, and the reason why he saw such a big jump forward, was the amount of carries he saw. Jumped up from an average of around 240 up to 340. So it's getting an extra 100 carries per season. I think he played a couple more games this year. So the big thing for me and what I worry about with Josh Jacobs is he just now volume based? Is it the volume that's getting that production rather than the talent? As I mentioned before, that 15, 12, 13, kind of that low end, high end RB2, whereas now obviously taking a jump to RB3. So I do just worry, is it more volume based than actual talent? Then looking at the yards per touch, finished 18th amongst running backs, breakaway run rate 31st amongst running backs. So again, they're just more signs to me that it's more volume and the opportunities that he got rather than the actual talent of Jacobs. We know now he's on the franchise tag for this upcoming season. I don't think he's signed that yet. I think there's a deadline on the 17th of July for him to sign a long-term contract. I will hold my hands up if he does sign that long-term contract, stay with the Raiders, I'll definitely bump him up because I'm more confident in being in that situation where he thrived last year. I just worry that with it being a contract year, not having that long-term situation, if he does move on from the Raiders after this year, what are we looking at with Josh Jacobs? Could just be another one of these guys that saw a huge weight, like a little bit like Leonard Fournette, I guess, who saw a lot of opportunities and did great with the opportunities, whereas when he dug in a little bit deeper, wasn't actually that efficient with the opportunities. So that's my worry with Josh Jacobs. I just worry he's maybe not the talent that we think he is, more because of the opportunities that he has seen this past season.
Yeah, I would have thought we was keeping up for Josh Jacobs there, but yeah, I think the reason I like him is last 2 seasons had over 60 targets, he had 50 catches. I think that's really safe. You made a great point about him being potentially out of the contract this year. I think a move, it's not one I would want as a dynasty owner. I want him to stay. If he moves, I think it gets really cloudy. It could be someone like a David Montgomery that's being a volume guy, moves and everyone's doing curly whirlies, and then he gets gazumped by maybe a guy will come on to very soon. But yeah, I like Jacobs where he's at. I think he's still 25. He's younger than Saquon Barkley. He's I think same age as Ramondre, younger than Tony Pollard, which people don't realize. So yeah, it's a year gap or whatever. I think yeah, I want him to stay in Las Vegas. I think Jimmy G is a good fit for him, being a pocket QB. The lost Waller to the mighty Giants again. That's someone might come on to in a little bit. Spoiler alert. And yeah, over to you, Alec.
Yeah, very similar to Kev, really. It's certainly not a long-term play, but then I think once you get past the top 5 or 6 running backs, I mean, none of these running backs are long-term play. You just got to go on the here and the now. I think the Raiders is the perfect team for Josh Jacobs, as Kev has alluded to. I don't want him to get a move away, but then I'm not expecting it, to be honest. I think the Raiders are a team that always think that they're going to compete. Ideally, it's Jimmy G that is going to be the quarterback. I know there's worries about his health, but if he is the guy, then I think there's going to be plenty of dump-offs to Josh Jacobs. His target is going to be up there again, and I think the volume's going to be there as well. Hopefully, Javonte Adams is going to be happy there, and they're a team that think they can always compete. So I could see them signing a probably too expensive deal, giving Jacobs too much money. But in terms of Dynasty, that's good for Jacobs, and just see him a bit more secure than some of the other guys in that same tier. But yeah, there's a pretty big tier for me. So from where RB7 to RB12, I think my tier is. So I mean, I'm not far away from you, Matt, and I can certainly see the argument against him. I mean, also this time last off season we were slating him to high heaven, so to praise him up feels a bit strange, but that's the situation we're in.
We've removed the tape lock.
Exactly, that's what we do. Right, Kev, over to you. A guy. So this is an interesting one because this is a rookie, so a guy that we've not seen any of, but your ranking is rather spicy.
It's aggressive. It's JAHMYR GIBBS. I fully understand it's aggressive. A little bit like Fields. I'm ranking GIBBS as running back 2. You boys, Ali's got him 5. Matt's got him 6. Totally gets aggressive. Let me tell you why. Where he was taken in the draft, you look at the hit rate of that over the last 5-10 years. People taking that early as running backs in the draft, they hit. They are mega producers fantasy. I also look at the type of touch he gets. It's going to be receiving passes more predominantly than not. So you can see a trajectory of Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler. That's how he's going to be used. He's not going to be a 300 rush type of guy. I'm buying into the age as well. He's 21, he's a young guy. If he just has a good season, there's absolutely no doubt for me that he will be a top 3 running back next off season. And that's why I've got him that ranked high, because I think you look at the guys around him, I think he's 5 at the market. You've got Breece Hall coming back from major injury. You've got Jonathan Taylor, who, yeah, if Pittman's been gambling, that's going to cause 11 men in the box. You've got, obviously, Bijan. He's not going to be above, yeah, he's not going to be above Bijan, but I think he will have seasons where he outscores Bijan. There's McCaffrey, the age factor. If McCaffrey stays fit, he's not going to outscore McCaffrey, we know that, but the age factor. So I really like being aggressive on him. I don't have to pay running back 2, but that's just where I rank him. Small pause, and I don't want to take your notes away from you guys if you've made any secretly, but small pause, I couldn't use Swift in the right way. The views at Capital, they've got to use him the right way.
No, I totally get it, Kev. He's in the same tier for me, so he could be ranked from 2 to 6. That's my tier. JAHMYR GIBBS, I can certainly see the path to him becoming a top 3 dynasty running back in a year's time. I think now is the cheapest you're going to get him, certainly for the next 2 to 3 years. He's only got to have half decent season, as you mentioned. Kenneth Walker had a half a decent season, was ranked as running back 2. Travis Etienne as well when he came back. These younger guys, they've only got to show a little bit. I mean, the guy that I'm going to talk about next, and they get ranked possibly higher than they should. I mean, the only pause for thought for me, David Montgomery's there. He's signed a nice deal. I do see him having a sizable role this year. JAHMYR GIBBS is not going to be an every down workhorse. He's going to have to share the load, and especially being a rookie early on, you don't know what the usage is going to be. But there is an opportunity because obviously Jameson Williams suspended. Laporta is a rookie tight end, so the targets are going to have to go somewhere. They can't all go to the sun god. JAHMYR GIBBS, yeah, he could easily be ranked as a top 2 or 3 running back this time next year. So I do get ranking him at RB2.
Yeah, and no, I get it as well, because I think more for me that the reason why I'm maybe lower than what Kev is because I've kind of changed my approach to running backs in Dynasty. I've always been a guy that said I'll always take the youngest running backs and always put them towards the top of my rankings, because you feel like you've got that longevity, don't you, in these rookies that are coming in. You feel like you've got at least 4, maybe 5 years if you get that 5th-year option with GIBBS. But I feel like now I've kind of changed my approach a little bit, and we know with running backs just how much it changes, how the landscape can change so quickly. Just got to look at Kenneth Walker last year, and I mean, before the NFL draft, he was like a top 2 running back. After it, he's barely scraping in the top 10, and that's because situation changes just so much in fantasy. So I've kind of changed my approach a little bit, and now I am just purely looking I'm basically redraft ranking my running backs at the top end, especially because I just want production that year, because I can't really see beyond 1 year in terms of running backs. So I do get why Kev's got him high. Obviously, being the younger guy, receiving work, we love that for fantasy and running backs. If you're running backs catching balls, you know he's got that huge ceiling. I just wonder with JAHMYR GIBBS though, I feel like he's maybe not fitting the mold of like a McCaffrey, because I don't think he's going to be used as much in the running game. Looking at Austin Eckler as well, we mentioned him, and I think that's a great point, because he was always a guy that didn't really see too much in the running game, but a lot in the receiving game. But it's actually going to be in the last couple of years where he's become an elite top 1, top 2 running back. And that's because he's actually saw more touches in terms of running the ball as well. So I just worry that he's not going to have that role. David Montgomery's there, and while I don't think he's great, I think he's going to be great for what he can do, kind of like Jamal Williams kind of role. So I just worry that maybe GIBBS doesn't have that ceiling of being an elite RB, the RB1 in fantasy, or a top 2 running back in fantasy, because he's not going to do both things. But I completely get why Kev's got him so high. And probably me a couple of years ago, I'd have been right there with you, Kevin. I would have been targeting Ali for having him too low. So I do get it. It's just my approach. I think it's changed a little bit over the last year or 2.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, 4 places, but you're wrong, Kev.
I mean, it was on the streamathon where Kev was getting some stick. He wasn't on, but it was Michael Bowers getting some stick for having him as RB2. So it's not just us, Kev, that are after you.
Snip this, Bauer. Snip it.
Love that. Yeah, I feel like I could get a bit of pushback on this one. Javonte Williams is going to be my running back, where I'm running back 13, Matt running back 16, and Kev running back 17. So we're in the same ballpark. I perhaps just am a bit more optimistic about the overall perhaps injury concerns about Javonte Williams. I think I can see a path where he gets back on the field this this season. He's still 23 years old. I think he's still. We saw the flashes in his rookie year. Looked absolutely incredible in space when he was sharing the backfield. Was it with Melvin Gordon? I just see Sean Payton coming in, and I think he's got a vision for Javonte Williams. I think he's not going to take over that offense, that team, without having a vision of what he wants on the field. And I think the offense is going to operate at a high pace this offseason. It's going to be productive. And I just think if Javonte Williams can see the field early and rather than later, I know they've got P. Ryan who can probably start the season as RB1. But I think Javonte Williams, as I mentioned, still only 23 years old, is a guy that you can take, and you don't have to take him at RB13. I don't know where he's. You boys are probably more in line with consensus than me. But I think he's a guy that if he does hit, certainly in the second half of the season, if he does come back and looks okay, I think he's only got to look okay, then that ranking this time next off season, when he's still only going to be 24 years old, is probably going to be closer to the top 10 or back, or sort of an early runner back too. So I'm perhaps a little bit too high on Javonte, but I can just see I want to pick guys here that have the ability to leap into the running back one conversation. And I do think that Javonte, if he can overcome the injury fears, and obviously that was a terrible injury, and not many players are going to make it back from that. But if he can, he's still got the time on his side. He's still got the offense. He's got Sean Payton. Just to increase on value and taking him as a mid RB2 right now, I think the value can slightly go up in the future. Now roast me.
I'll start by saying I do agree that I think his value can take a bump forward when he comes back and you start seeing the clips of him at training and actually moving. I think that will see his value take a little bit of a jump. But I think with me and Javonte Williams, the reason why I can't get behind him too much is obviously that rookie season. Yeah, he did look fantastic at times. You obviously seen the clips on Twitter where he's making these great runs. But I just worry, why couldn't he beat out Melvin Gordon? Now, I know Melvin Gordon had a great season that year as well, but then you look to last year, what was Melvin Gordon doing? I mean, he barely played. Didn't he go over to like the Chiefs on the practice squad? So I think that just tells you he was kind of coming towards the end of his career. And I just worry, why couldn't Javonte Williams beat him out? And then I worry looking forward now, with obviously coming off the tough injury, and I'm no injury expert, so I don't know what the success rate is of running backs coming back from this kind of injury. But I just worry, are the Broncos going to be a little bit cautious with him with that injury? Is he still going to continue to be in that timeshare? And if so, I just don't feel like we're going to get that season that maybe we hoped we would have got out of Javonte Williams being a workhorse running back. We know Sean Payton's being a guy that's always used kind of a committee back anyway. So I feel like his approach to the running back position will be a committee. So I just feel like Javonte Williams doesn't quite have that season of maybe what we hoped he had a couple of years ago when he came in as a rookie. And I don't know, maybe it's just my take lot from Michael Carter as well. I mean, former running backs together. Michael Carter's basically out of the league now, and maybe I just hold a little bit of grudge against Javonte Williams still being actually in a good range in terms of fantasy. But no, in all seriousness, I think I understand where the ranking is, and I do agree when he starts showing signs of coming back, he could maybe see a bump. But I just worry about the situation and what it looks like long term for Javonte.
Yeah, it's purely a risk thing for me. The fact that first guy that popped into my head is last year's J.K. Dobbins, where it came back, he was battling injuries, didn't really do much. I'd rather just wait a year, pay a little bit of a premium if I do my timing right, and get Javonte then. I think great situation. I think if it wasn't Sean Payton there, I don't believe his ranking would be as high as it is at the market. So I think that's collectively on everyone that, yeah, we've got him around that. We've probably got him in a range between us two, really, us three. But yeah, I'd rather buy him next year and take a little bit of a safe approach.
Yeah, I like a bit of risk, so let's go for it. I'm willing to get hurt. Yeah, we'll move on to the wide receiver position. So back to you, Matt, with your wide receiver.
Yeah, let's go back to the merry-go-round that is Deebo Samuel, a guy that I was once low on, then high on, then back low on, and it seems to always be swings and roundabouts. And this time it looks like I'm actually higher than you two. Got him wide receiver 25. Kev got him wide receiver 32. Ali wide receiver 31. And I'll start by saying, obviously, last year, looking at the pure numbers, what he finished as the wide receiver 40. But when you look at points per game, he's actually wide receiver 28, so a little bit better than maybe what you think he did last year. And then just to compare it to his teammate, who everyone seems to be getting super excited about now this offseason, Brandon Ayuk, he actually finished wide receiver 23 last year in fantasy points per game. So 5 positions between them. averaging 13.4 fantasy points per game, whereas DEEBO Samuel 13, so 0.4 per game difference. Yeah, everyone's getting super excited by Brandon Ayuk. Everyone now seems to be super against DEEBO Samuel coming into this year, and I just don't get it, to be honest. I think you look back on what DEEBO's done in previous years. 2021, we obviously know that incredible season where he finished wide receiver 3 in fantasy points per game. That tells me that DEEBO's got that today, and we know he's got it because we've seen it happen before with DEEBO Samuel. We know what he does in this offense. It's an offense that's obviously been great for the last few years behind a solid defense as well. And that role that DEEBO's got, I mean, he's got a role named after himself. Everyone says the DEEBO role when you talk about a wide receiver that sees some rushing attempts as well. And I mean, DEEBO Samuel's just great at what he does, and that's why everyone mentions it as the DEEBO role, because it is such a valuable role that he possesses, and the skill set that he's got. He's one of the best yards after catch wide receivers in the NFL, hence why they use him in a variety of different ways. And I just feel like with that, and I feel like he's QB proof as well. Obviously, a lot of talk this offseason is going to be who's going to be the starting quarterback for the 49ers. Well, because DEEBO Samuel was used in such a variety of different ways, it doesn't really matter who's quarterback, because he's going to be seeing touches in the running game, the short receiving game, and he can just rack up the yards himself after he's got the ball in his hand. So I really like the talent of DEEBO Samuel. I do like Brandon Ayuk as well. I will add that as well. I think this offense is going to be great no matter who the quarterback is. But yeah, still a little bit higher on DEEBO than maybe what you guys are. But maybe it could be a little switch, and obviously everyone got super high on DEEBO after 2021, whereas I kind of stayed a little bit lower on him then, and then it seems everyone now starting to go the other way. So yeah, wide receiver 25. I know it's not massively higher than what you guys are, but I just love his role that he's got in that offense. Still only 27 as well, and he's probably still in his prime, isn't he? So I still think he's a great wide receiver for Dynasty, and 25 feels like a good range to have him at.
Yeah, Matt lurking in the bushes last year, but yeah, to be honest, like, we want arguments on this show, want the calling each other names and stuff. We don't really. That's not true, but I think out of all the positions when it came to do rankings, this wide receiver tier was the hardest for me. It took me absolutely ages to get something that I felt comfortable about. So if there's one spot I'm going to give a little bit of leeway to you guys, it's wide receiver. I think for me, DEEBO Samuel, I have more concerns if Trey Lance does become the QB. I think that it's going to be great for Lance. I have question marks about everybody else skill positions on that offense if it is him. Brock Purdy, people are claiming he's already better than Jimmy G was for the 49ers. I mean, Jimmy G went to Super Bowl. He went to NFC Championship game. So yeah, I'm not there with Purdy being the next Tom Brady, but yeah, I think there's more question marks there. I think it's a massive tier, like we've said. People are going to put Ayuk above DEEBO because his numbers lower in terms of his age. People do that. Yeah, it's going to be really. I think it all comes down to QB. If it's Purdy, I'm happier. If it's Lance, I'm less happy. It could be Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I mean, for me, similarly, my tier, I think, is 17 players in this tier that I found it so hard to move up and down. And you'll see it because the next two guys that we talk about is exactly the same. They're all in the same tier, just ordered differently. And I mean, the one person that is keeping DEEBO Samuel low for me is Christian McCaffrey, because I think DEEBO Samuel is playing less of a DEEBO Samuel role than a lot of players in the league now, because Christian McCaffrey is that guy. DEEBO Samuel played that role when their running backs were guys they picked off the street, and now they've got Christian McCaffrey, the best running back in the NFL. He has that role to himself and plays it absolutely brilliantly. DEEBO Samuel is now purely almost a wide receiver again, so I just think that limits his ceiling. And I think he had a couple of spells, missed a couple of games last season where he was injured. But yeah, I mean, again, we're 6 places apart. DEEBO Samuel's got the ceiling there, so there's no chance that I'm going to rip this ranking whatsoever. Because if you told me next season DEEBO Samuel's going to finish higher than Brandon Ayuk, yeah, I'll certainly believe that. So yeah, can't rip it much at all. But I can this one. No, not really. Kev, over to you for your wide receiver ranking. That you're too high, and this is quite interesting because you're really quite high. I'm in the middle, and then Matt's quite low. So this should be an interesting one.
Yeah, it's not my most confident take so far, if I'm honest. Don't want to show weakness. Don't want to show weakness to tell the enemy. But yeah, Christian Watson, I've got him 22. You've got him 26. Ali, Matt's got him 31. Massive tier, like I said. I think there is concerns. I get there's concerns, new QB, new competition, etc. I was really impressed with what he did on limited touches. Now, I'm not saying he's going to get 9 touchdowns on 30 touches or something, or whatever daft he had last season, but I think someone that was injured a lot of pre-season, early season, limited snaps, what he did over the second half was fantastic. He had a spell, I think, 3 or 4 games where he was top 11, top 12 wide receiver, which to do that, it's not Travis Fulgham, but I just like the fact that he was used as a runner, he was used as a passer. I think the offensive coordinator, the coach, they've clearly set a role and understand how to get the most of him. So I think that slightly negates Aaron Rodgers. Plus, I saw games where Rodgers was overthrowing Watson on the deep pass as well. I'm not saying that Rodgers is bad, but ranking him 20, Ali, a bit spicy. No, I have to get my shots in early. Watson, he's a risky guy. There's guys, next I'll come on to it, I like more, but yeah, I think there's potential there for him to take another step and people will get in on him. He's a volatile asset. If you remember, early last season, you're probably getting him wide receiver 50, 60. He jumped up to be wide receiver 20. So I get he's volatile, but he possesses some of the skills to take him even higher and be higher than Martavis Bryant was, which is pretty tricky.
Yeah, no, I like your argument.
Because he got done for marijuana, didn't he? That's why I'm saying it's higher. Anyway, go on, Ali.
I love it. And I mean, wide receiver 22 is pretty high, but I mean, on 4 spots behind you, he's just a bit more uncertain for me in what the Christian Watson's role is going to be. We saw it in flashes last year. Didn't do it consistently, but looked great in the games where he did pop off, which I think sticks in a lot of people's minds. They've obviously drafted Jaden Reed. I know there wasn't a huge amount of buzz about Jaden Reed before his pick in the NFL draft that was early. You've still got Romeo Dobbs that showed potential last year. You've obviously got Jordan Love at quarterback. You've got 2 new tight ends. I think there's a lot of new moving pieces on this offense. The running backs aren't going to go away. So I just think Watson's in a position where he can certainly increase his value this time throughout the season and be higher, ranked as a high wide receiver 2, perhaps mid wide receiver 2. Or he has the ability, if he just shows flashes again this year, doesn't put it all together, he could be ranked more where Matt's got him, perhaps even lower. So I just think there's a range of possibilities with Christian Watson. So I've sort of settled in the middle where I'm comfortable with him as a low or as a high wide receiver 2. High wide receiver 3. But certainly has the ability to go either way.
Just one share.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat too much of what you guys have said for the negatives, because obviously they're what I'm banking on as well. So the change at quarterback position to competition. But I will just add, I think it's funny when you talk about Christian Watson, because obviously everybody mentions those games like you mentioned, Kev, where he was like the wide receiver 6, 8 or whatever in that 4-game stretch when he's getting the touchdowns. But I'll bet you anything, those guys that have him on their roster and then played him in the championship weeks will not like Christian Watson. They'll be more like me, I reckon, because he was wide receiver 48, wide receiver 40, wide receiver 91 in those 3 games in the fantasy playoffs. So I bet anybody that had him and started getting that confidence in him is really against Christian Watson now. But I'm a bit like you, Kev. I ain't got many shares of Christian Watson, and I'm just erring more on that cautious side, I think, with him for the reasons that you've mentioned. Quarterback, added competition, just a complete change, I think, to this offense. And I just worry that maybe he's not going to get the opportunity that he saw as a rookie. But not going to go into too much because you boys have mentioned it perfect for the reasons against.
Right, we'll move on. I'm going to stick my Kevlar armor on for this one because I'm going to get a bit of a backlash from TREYLON. BURKS is my guy that I'm perhaps criminally looking at my ranking too low on. A guy that I was high on, like you boys were coming into the rookie process. Unfortunately, the season last year didn't show much, and so I've got him ranked as wide receiver 27. You boys have both got him ranked as wide receiver 20. It is a difficult one because it's almost like I've grown a little bit tired of TREYLON BURKS. I've got lots of TREYLON BURKS shares. Just waiting for the season to come to see whether my investment, because I think you're not having to pay wide receiver 20 prices for TREYLON BURKS. He was a guy that I would manage to to get in deals that were almost not throw-ins, but I wasn't paying up for TREYLON BURKS or having to. He was involved in big trades, so I'm happy to take him there. I just think what he's shown his rookie season in a very questionable offense and a team that are sort of stranded in wanting to compete but also wanting to rebuild. Obviously, taking the rookie Will Levis in the NFL draft. But yeah, looking at last year, he was targeted 4.8 times a game. He only averaged 8.6 points per game in his rookie season, which was good for wide receiver 61. So I just think where I've got him ranked, like I've got him ranked below Christian Watson, who he could easily swap, and Burks could be ranked higher than him this time next season. It's just difficult for me to rank him any higher because the guys that I've got ranked above him, I just think have got either higher ceiling or have already shown that they can bounce back. I've got like Quentin Johnson ranked ahead of him. I've got Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Ayuk, Jahan Dotson, and Chris Godwin ranked above him. I struggle to have TREYLON BURKS ranked ahead of those guys because they've either shown something or I think they've got a higher ceiling, certainly for the next couple of years in that offense, which I still think is going to be a run-heavy offense through Derrick Henry. Obviously drafted Tajay Spears as well. I think Tannehill's going to be the quarterback. I think that's probably the best outcome for this season for Burks. And you just got to hope that he shows something because, again, a bit like Christian Watson, perhaps, if he has another disappointing year, Burks, he could be ranked as a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 come this time next off season. So just a few question marks, but I'm probably a little bit too low.
I'll just start by saying I'm ready for this battle, Ali, because I've already had it on Twitter, I think about 3 or 4 months ago with TREYLON BURKS when I mentioned that he should have been ranked higher than Christian Watson. I think it was on Keep Trade Cut a few months ago. So I've had this battle before with people on Twitter, so I'm ready for it. I think the thing with me with TREYLON BURKS is everyone just looks at the numbers like you mentioned, Ali, and says, yeah, it was a really disappointing rookie season. But when you actually look at why he had such a disappointing rookie season, he obviously had that turf toe early in the season, which is an injury that can rule wide receivers out for an entire season when it's bad. Burks was on crutches, obviously struggling with it. He came back, and in the couple of games when he came back, it's looked amazing, caught this amazing touchdown pass, which then resulted in him having a concussion, and then took him back out again, kind of ruined all the momentum he was building again after coming off the turf toe. And then I think he might even have another concussion later on in the season as well. But I just think with TREYLON BURKS, there's a lot of reasons why he wasn't able to produce so early as a rookie, as I say, with the injuries that people maybe don't quite appreciate just how bad the injuries were. As I say, the turf toe can be bad. The concussion was obviously bad as well. And just couldn't get that momentum to carry him through the season. So I think with TREYLON BURKS, that rookie season, I'm willing to put that aside as an outlier, that it was just an unlucky rookie season. I think I'm willing to back the talent. I had him as my wide receiver 1 when he came into the NFL in that rookie class. I love the talent. We saw what he did at Arkansas and how he was used there, and then going to the Titans, basically coming in as AJ Brown. His mold fits that perfectly. So I feel like there's a role that's already established for somebody like TREYLON BURKS, and he can fill it when he's healthy. Not really had any competition this year. Brought in another quarterback. So if you are maybe out on Ryan Tannehill, I mean, Will Levis, he could potentially be an upgrade on Tannehill anyway. So I feel like there's potentially a stable quarterback there as well for Burks. So I just think with the situation, as I say, I think there's excuses for that rookie season. I'm willing to bank on the talent that I think he has when he came in as a prospect, and I'm willing to forgive him for that throughout the rookie season.
Yeah, just copy paste what Matt said there. He basically stole everything I was going to say. All I would say is I'm going to do a little plug here that I've got a DLF article coming out very soon, Watson versus Burks. So yeah, you get 2 for 1 if you have a look at that. But love Burks, great prospect, banking on talent long term.
Yeah, AJ Brown 2.0. Come on, TREYLON. we need to show a little bit more in this coming season. Yeah, we'll move on to the tight end position, Matt's favourite position. I can't believe we're going to argue about a tight end in the tight end dead zone right now, but that's where we are. So, Matt, over to you.
Yeah, my favourite position, but this range of this position is not my favourite at all. It's JUWAN Johnson. I've got him as tight end 24. Kev's got him tight end 18, Ali tight end 19. So, again, we know what range of tight ends this is, so I don't feel like I'm going to get too much pushback, but I do know the reasons that you're going to give me. But I think for me, finished tight end 18 last season in fantasy points per game, but he had 7 touchdowns, which ranked 4th amongst tight ends. Now we know touchdowns and tight. If you're getting the touchdowns, that's basically a lot of your fantasy points when it comes to this range of tight ends. And I just think touchdowns, they're not a reliable stat to look back on year after year, and you can't predict the amount of touchdowns. So I do just worry that a lot of his production came from the touchdowns. And now I know what the argument's going to be. Obviously, getting Derek Carr in, is this now going to be the new Darren Waller of this New Orleans Saints offense? But I just worry that there's been a signing this offseason that has kind of slipped under the radar a little bit. And that's Foster Moreau coming in. I mean, do you want to know who Derek Carr's played with the most out of this Saints offense so far in his career? It's Foster Moreau. He's a guy that he already knows how to play with. We've seen that connection when Darren Waller has been out with the Raiders. We've seen that he's used Foster Moreau in quite a similar way to what he used Darren Waller, maybe not to the extent of Darren Waller, but we know there's that connection there. We know they've got that time together from the Raiders, and I feel like that's kind of snuck under the radar a little bit, this added competition at tight end. So that would be my only counter argument. So I know the argument that you're going to bring to me about that Darren Waller potential in Juwan Johnson. He's an athletic tight end as well, so I do get it, but as I say, it's that kind of range of tight ends where I don't think I'm going to get too much pushback. And he's somebody actually that if things do hit, yeah, I can fully understand why you've got him ranked where you've got him.
Yeah, the shower narrative, I guess. I think one other argument I would have is that Kamara is definitely going to miss games this season. I think that opens up a bit of work there. Yeah, that the Darren Waller, he's been mentioned twice already. I wonder if we'll get a third wink, nudge. But yeah, I think the one thing that's missed on Juwan Johnson is he came into the league as a wide receiver, so he's still learning the role, I guess, 3-4 years in. So yeah, I'm really optimistic where he's going. I'd rather shoot for upside. Yeah, we can't bank on touchdowns, but I think there's opportunity there. I'm not fully backing on Michael Thomas either. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much echo what Kev said. The opportunity's there. Yeah, I think Michael Thomas is going to injure his pinky, his little toe again, and be out for the rest of the season. The opportunity's there for Derek Carr in this offense. I think it will be a really interesting offense to watch. He's just a safe guy to take. I really like Juwan Johnson as like your tight end 2 on your roster, someone to fill in. And yeah, tight end 15 last year. I can pretty much see him finishing the same sort of position this year. So where you're taking him, I think there's a little bit of value there. And I can't rank him too low. He's obviously got the contract. He's 25, 26 years old. He's in his prime. I think he could he sneak in as a back end tight end 1 this year? Perhaps he can. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about a position where ranking from tight end 10 through to tight end 30 is really pretty similar. So yeah, there's only 5 spots between us. So really, we are the smart ones in the room. And Kev, moving on to you for your tight end that you are, you're higher than me and Matt by 4 spots. So who is it, and why is he so high?
Yeah, I've gone from the smart one with you to the dumb one. So yeah, Greg Dulcich for me. I'm right at market, tight end 13. You boys have soured on him at tight end 17. So not loads of gaps in there. But I think the interesting thing for me with Dulcich is he came in as rookie. He didn't play the first 10 weeks. Came in, did really well. Finished tight end, I think 13 in fantasy points per game. Got Sean Payton, who was a known tight end whisperer. Jimmy Graham, some other dude there. Jared Cook. Other people, Jeremy Shockey, maybe I might have made that up, but yeah, he has a great rookie season. Gets Sean Payton, people start fading it. I think it's quite funny. Not calling you both out, but I sort of am. Yeah, seeing him go behind guys in drafts, not a market, but in drafts like Chig, by Trey McBride. He had better rookie seasons than them, and he's just got Sean Payton. So yeah, I like the Greg. I'm right at market. I'm not going to get too crazy. He's got great hair.
I mean, there's no comment. You can't argue with the hair. He does look great. But yeah, I mean, we're 4 spots apart. I just think for me, he's been overtaken by some of the rookie tight ends that have come in that I think have the ability to be a top 8, top 9 dynasty tight end. I don't quite see it with Greg Dulcich. I think he's got a bit more to work on his game. There's obviously a loaded wide receiver room. There's a lot of options there in Denver. But certainly has the ability to kick on. So if he was to be ranked as a tight end 1 next season, I wouldn't be surprised. So can't really go in on you for this ranking, Kev, although I'd absolutely love to. But yeah, he's just been overtaken by the rookies that have come in. I still really like banking on Chig to take a step forward. And then the couple of veterans as well I've got ranked ahead, like Evan Engram, who I think hopefully can secure a deal in Jacksonville. And then Dalton Schultz, who I think can almost be the first target.
No, not Schultz.
First target. Kev, you love Schultz in the Houston offense and reignite his career. So that's Greg Dulcich for me.
Yeah, and I'm probably similar. I think the competition at wide receivers obviously there, but I mean, I'm not going to fight too hard because I think there is that range of tight ends again where you maybe taking the rookies over Greg Dulcich. I know I am, guys like Sam Laporta, whereas Kev maybe isn't. So I think that's maybe going to be where the discrepancy is. I have actually got Trey McBride, who Kev mentioned, over Greg Dulcich, but I think a lot of times when you're talking about rookies, I think you've got to look at the situation as well compared to the two players. And maybe Greg Dulcich was just in a little bit of a better situation last year. And obviously Russell Wilson was struggling to get anything clicking. Who's your safety blanket? Usually the tight end position. So I feel like, yeah, I can get behind him making that step forward. I think Russell Wilson, obviously the coaching staff coming in as well. So completely get it. I think it's just me maybe still clinging on to I wasn't maybe as high in as a prospect and maybe just wanting a little bit more proof in the pudding before making my decision to move up any further. But yeah, I completely get it. And as I say, it'd be interesting to see what his rankings compare, Kevin, and who's between these guys, because maybe it's just me putting in a few guys that you don't, that maybe I thought you might have had.
It's the rookies, even Musgrave.
Yeah, that bit. I've got Musgrave one spot, so it probably is guys like that, yeah.
Yeah, we'll move on to the final guy, and it's my guy, and it's also your guy as well, Matt, because he plays for your team. It's Darren Waller. It's and I've got him as tight end 14. You boys have both got him as tight end 10. And I'll say 2 words. This is my reasoning. Daniel Bellinger. Have you seen what Daniel Bellinger looks like? He looks like the Incredible Hulk right now. That is an impressive specimen. But yeah, Darren Waller obviously moving across to your New York Giants, the team that threw the least to the tight end position in 2022. A measly, I think it was 65 or around about 65 targets the whole season to tight ends, which was a record low. So that, I mean, that really is where I am. I mean, the system, is it going to suddenly cater for Darren Waller to have 100 plus targets? I mean, it could do, because when was the last time they had a really good tight end? Evan Ingram's rookie season, he done well. Yeah, so there's a few question marks. Is obviously the age is getting up there. What, I don't know what he's 31 years old, something like that. But we've seen the ceiling with Waller. So if he was to finish as a top 6 tight end this year, I would not be surprised one bit. Could he be Daniel Jones's first option and his favorite option? He could well be, because again, you signed a lot of slot wide receivers. No one really standing out there, so Darren Waller could take over. But I'm just going to lean on the edge. I've just got the rookies now ahead of him that I think have got a higher ceiling just at this point in his career. So he falls slightly behind them.
I can't believe I'm in a position where I'm trying to defend Darren Waller when I said it. Basically, everything you just said, Ali, when we signed him and we did our show talking about the free agent moves, I said all the same things you said, not thrown to the tight end. I think for me, my only defense is the lack of competition. We've obviously got the Giants in terms of wide receivers. No real clear wide receiver one there. Darren Waller being that big guy, being that athletic guy, being someone that can play on the outside. Maybe he's going to be used in a variety of different ways. So I'm willing to maybe back a little bit more on the talent and the fact that he's going to maybe be the number one option in this offense. We need a red zone threat. He brings that. So I think he's going to see a lot of opportunities in the red zone as well. So I just think he can maybe push a little bit higher, but I mean, I do get it getting up there in age. So not going to bang the drum too hard on Darren Waller, but I feel like 10's maybe about the right spot. Just
going to say, Daniel Bellinger looking like a beast. I remember Darren Waller on Hard Knocks looking like the thing from the Fantastic Four. What a unit he is. When he said Daniel, I honestly thought the second word was Jones.
Same.
So that's where I'm at. I think we've seen him do it in the past. Hopefully he can do it for anyone that's got Daniel Jones shares. But yeah, let's go with a veteran in a strange range in tight end rankings.
Yeah, love it. So with that ends tonight's show, where we've completed our Dynasty rankings debate. Absolutely enjoyed it, lads. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow us and subscribe on Twitter and YouTube at Fantasy Wildcard and at Wildcard Dynasty. And join us for our show every Tuesday in June. And the Streamathon episodes, they'll be dropping daily Wednesday to Saturday for a week. They've been really entertaining to watch back. So yeah, thank you once again. Have a good one. Donate in June, and